Hi, I'm Danielle Jascott with the Institute for Nutritional Medicine, and I am joined today by Dora Chan of California. Dora is a current student in the Masters of Human Nutrition program at the University of Bridgeport. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dora.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
So I thought maybe we might start with a little bit of your background. I know you have, nutrition is not going to be your first career, so I thought if you wanted to get into a little bit of what you've done in the past and kind of what led you to this path.
Sure. It's kind of funny. So growing up, like in high school, when we're trying to figure out where we want to go, what university to go to, I wanted to do nutrition and diet and be a dietitian, right?
Mm-hmm.
I told my parents, told my guidance counselor, and they're both like, no, don't go in, don't be a dietitian. You're not gonna make any money. Don't do it. So then I was like, oh, okay. So then I was like, well, what do I do now? And I've always been like in that space where I want to be a care professional. So something healthcare related, but I didn't want to like touch people or have blood on me, all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, why don't I apply for pharmacy? That seems like the perfect job. So I did, and I got in. So this is when in Canada, I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. So I did my pharmacy degree. I graduated in 2001. And sort of a variety of backgrounds. I worked in hospital, I worked in a retail store, I worked in long-term care homes, I worked in a family practice, sort of a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. So my most recent job before I moved to California was in the family health team, which is like a multidisciplinary team with doctors, nurses, dietitians, etc. So I would see patients who had like really complex medication issues, but it always comes down to the same thing, right? They come to see me, talk about their meds, but really they want to know, well, how do I get off of these medications, or how do I get lower dosages? Like, we don't want to be on these 10, 50 medications. And it's always the same thing. It's like, well, you got to work on your diet, and you got to work on your lifestyle and exercise and all that stuff. That's the only way we're going to get you off these meds. And nobody ever listens. And honestly, I never really learned much about nutrition in my pharmacy career. So there's only so much education I could provide. Otherwise, I'd pass them off to our dietitian, who was busy doing her own specialty stuff too. So anyways, fast forward, I moved to California. That was about 7 years ago. And I don't know if you realize that California has one of the hardest processes for being licensed as a pharmacist. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to retake all my boards. I pretty much have to work full-time as an intern, making nothing. So I was like, forget this. I was pregnant with twins. I'm like, I did not want to go through this process. So then it was like the perfect opportunity. Well, what do I want to do? Like, do I want to do this whole licensing thing and then come out and work at a retail store and not be happy doing the same thing? And I realized what I loved best about my job before was doing that counseling and teaching on the dietary stuff and the lifestyle stuff. So I was like, well, why don't I look into nutrition or dietetics? So being a dietitian would have been a longer journey. So I fell upon the master's program at Bridgeport and learned about functional medicine and functional nutrition. And I thought, this is it. This is what I've always wanted to do. So I jumped right in. And so I have, I guess, one more semester left. And I realized that the CNS component was an important piece of my career going forward. So I've started taking on like pro bono clients on the side, and so excited and so pumped to come out and like start getting people off their medications and reducing their dosages and helping, right? So, and I'm so excited. So that's my journey. So finally doing like 360, 180, whatever it is.
A little bit of a flip-flop, I guess. Yeah. Definitely. But I mean, they definitely both can work together. And the fact that you have that knowledge and that background with the medication, that's a huge leg up when it comes to working with clients, for sure.
So having that pharmacy and that medical background too, and saying, hey, I know where you're coming from. I also have a brain for that conventional side. Let's bring them together and work on it.
That you are actually practicing right now. You do have a functional nutrition practice. So let me ask you, getting that degree, that master's degree, what was your reason for going back to school? I mean, you obviously have a lot of knowledge. You've done a lot of your own research.
I didn't really get any nutrition education. throughout my career. So I really felt
your own
unequipped to help. And when I kind of looked online about California, I don't need to be officially certified, but it sounds like I had to do a master's in order to be eligible for insurance coverage. So if people want to be reimbursed. So I thought, let's go back to school. I'm not working right now. I'm just taking care of the kids. So why don't I go back to school and get this over with? And I'm so glad I did, because like even the first semester was, I think, biochem and physiology or anatomy, something like that.
It's definitely a tough first semester, but
it was tough. But
so
they actually exempted me from those classes.
Okay.
But I said, no way, that was 20 years ago. I need to go back. So I audited it, and I was just amazed at what, particularly the biochemistry and how it relates to nutrition. It was all new to me. It's like I never even learned it before, and maybe it's possible that I never did learn it before. So there's all this biochemistry background that I never got. And it's incredible. Now I know, like when I was working in the pharmacy and people were buying vitamin B supplements for energy, before I was like, whatever, that doesn't work. And now I'm like, of course.
Yeah, right.
Everything is all connected.
Do you plan to sort of, in your own practice, kind of connect the nutrition and your, I know you can't technically without the licensed practice pharmacy, but I'm assuming with that background, you may be able to help people a little bit more with education on their medications, or even taking a look and seeing like interactions is probably something that would be very.
I think the interactions and just having a bigger picture of all the other medical things in the background, really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. You said you are planning to obtain the CNS credential, and I know we talked about it a little bit before, but not during the actual interview. Are you planning to go and sit for the exam? Or you said earlier that you're doing some of your clinical hours now, so you're kind of set to go into that soon after graduation, correct?
Yeah. So I've already started doing my clinical hours, which is wonderful. It's helping so much with my studies.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as I can get into that exam and write it, I'm thinking probably I graduate in December, so I think there might be a June sitting. That's my goal.
Okay. Well, I definitely encourage it. I definitely do. Is there anything that you wanted to tell our listeners about your own practice, or even any, it's kind of a broad question, but even any of your own advice going through this personally? I know you've kind of made a bit of a career switch, but I don't know if you've kind of encountered any obstacles or anything that you would ever, just advise anybody on as far as the process for you.
I really appreciate the education I've received from Bridgeport, and I'm sure all of the master's programs out there are just as good. So, and I think it's required for the CNS anyways. But I think that last piece of having the clinical experience these last few months has helped so much, like just solidifying everything I've learned and applying it, and then doing better in my discussion boards and in my marks because of that experience. Really important. And not to underestimate like what you already know. And even if you don't know it, you can look it up. And right now I have access to my profs still, so I can always reach out if I need to. So just get out there and start doing things.
Yeah, definitely. And did you find it challenging to find a person to supervise your clinical hours, or was that something that you had more access to with people you were?
No, I lucked out. I basically just did a Google search of functional medicine practitioners near where I live, and I messaged them or emailed them or phoned them and asked if I could come do some shadowing hours. So I did go to a functional medicine clinic near my house. It's a chiropractic clinic. And they let me sit on with their dietitian to do the shadowing and watch, and we built up a nice rapport, and she did have her master's in nutrition as well. So I thought, hey, would you mind?
Now, was she an RD? Was she a CNS?
She's an RD. She's an RD.
Okay.
With a master's in nutrition diagnostics, I think. So she was able to become my CNS supervisor. So yeah, so she said, sure, I can do that.
Did you encounter any CNSs when you were like looking around, or was that I'm just curious because like I said earlier, that's one of the things that we're really working toward is getting that out there. It's a kind of lesser known credential, but it's also an incredible credential because it's definitely the most advanced as far as the education that's needed, and obviously the clinical hours, the exam, which you're so excited for.
Yes.
But that's good to know, because that's kind of, like I said, part of what we're all about.
Like the dietitian who's my supervisor, she had never heard of a CNS.
Yeah,
So that was all new to her. And honestly, I'd never heard of it before, other than after I entered the master's program. So yeah, we need to get the word out there.
Yeah, definitely. And we need lots of people like us to help spread that word. Yeah. So we can definitely put up a link or anything to your website if you'd like to let people know about that, where they can find you, or if somebody wants to maybe reach out to you and ask a question regarding the path that you're taking. I think people may be a little inspired as far as, you know, being able to go back and get that degree.
So my website right now is drdora.com.
Okay.
It's constantly changing. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, it should be this name or this name. And right now it's drdora.com. Okay. Or you can email me at dora@drdora.com.
Okay,
it's really simple right now. It's just like a spot to find out more about me.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Yeah. Sometimes simplicity is what people need.
I'll focus on it more once I graduate.
Yeah, I've got a lot on your plate right now, so. Great. Well, thank you so much again for speaking with me today. And of course, we all wish you the best of luck in finishing your degree, and we are absolutely looking forward to having you as part of the NuMed community.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to helping out.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much.